Welcome to Third Chances, a talk show where we like to hear from people who devoted their life to health, fitness, and wellness. Medical professionals, health coaches, and all the others who help us every day to cure our body, mind, or soul. Those who always look for more natural, holistic ways to help even more people to live a happier and healthier life. Those who don't like to give up easily and settle on you or themselves. It is never too late or too soon. I always believe that every one of us deserves not just a second chance, but as many as we need. I'm Vera, your host. Who better than a master of reinvention with an accent to guide you through it, right? Just like they say, you are not a tree, so move. And God knows I have done just that in my own life many times. If you are not completely happy with the direction your life is going, this show may help you get the courage to change what is needed, find a new path, and take charge. So come on over, pour yourself a glass of wine, and spend some time with us. Let's laugh and cry together and get inspired by people just like you and me who overcame their own doubts and took a leap of faith to reinvent their life on their own terms. I hope and pray that we help you on that journey. And if you feel so compelled and inspired, please let us know. Don't be shy. Who knows? You may just be our next featured guest with another inspiring success story. So here we go. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Third Chances. Today's guest is interesting because we met a few months ago at the speaker summit in Miami, Florida. And out of several speakers that were at this event, Kevin Wilson stand out to me the most. And basically, I really wanted to learn his entire story. So I was compelled to invite him to today's podcast. Kevin, welcome to my show. Where are you calling from?
Thank you very much, first of all, and I felt the same way about you when I first met you. It was a very inviting feeling, and you're one of the people that comes through life that fosters that good communication, and that there's I feel like there's some unspoken understanding between us, and those are the things that are so precious to me, and the people that's so precious to me in life. People that you have unspoken understanding with, and it's not because of the places you've been together and the things that you've done. It's just a good fit naturally. But to answer your question, I'm in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I'm so thankful and honored to be with you.
Thank you so much. And obviously, yeah, it's the Southern accent and your voice that also was impressive to me because I very sensitive ear about voices, so I really appreciate it. But let me start with telling you a little bit who Kevin is. And I have much more questions about his past than what he put on his bio, but it's a good start. So Kevin is a dedicated coach and speaker who specializes in guiding men on a transformative journey of personal and spiritual growth. His passion is to help you discover your unique purpose, overcome obstacles, cultivate practical vision, and reinforce identity. With a deep-rooted belief in the power of faith and personal development, Kevin is committed to equipping you with the tools and insights needed to lead a purpose-driven life. Drawing upon his own experiences and a study of the truth of God's word, Kevin is here to walk alongside you as you embark on a journey of self-discovery and transformation. Well, he elegantly swiped over his entire military career. That was the first thing that I was impressed with when I first met Kevin. And I'm going to bring you right back there because I believe that's the most important part of your journey and what made you the man you are today. And I must say that speech that you gave in that event, and then he later admitted to me that it was his first time. And he was supposedly nervous. I didn't feel any of that. was very moving for me because of that, because that speech was constructed to bring you and illustrate you what it takes to become a military ranger. You are the first person I ever met who was a ranger, and I know it's a very specialized position in the military, and it required really strong character. And I believe that's why you chose your next path, because this is something that is missing from today's life, and there's been attack on men's masculinity and the values of family values. And that's another thing that I was attracted to, because you seem to stand firm on your beliefs and on the values that we share. And even though this podcast is mostly for women, I definitely had few men here sharing. And you coaching men, I think it's so important, because the family without fathers is really destined for some hard times. And I believe father has a very strong role in a child world, and we need strong men to be able to bring the values back to our lives. So Kevin, please bring me back to that moment, because I only met you when you were trying to, for the first time, as a public speaker. And I wouldn't believe it for a minute, because, you know, to have impact like you did, with the humility that you showed, uh, I would love to touch on that story that you said in that speech, because that was the first thing that completely brought me into your world without ever knowing you before, of course.
You know, you do well at things that that you are attracted to, or that you're drawn to, or you're passionate about. And what I would say shortly about all that time in my military, and what you see that I gleaned from that, that's still valuable today. There's nothing more important to me or attractive to me than authenticity. That one word. And I think that anybody would listen to that and agree, if you stop and think about authenticity. And the Rangers were special, and I saw so many people in the military, especially back at that time. Um, the military um, was a place that a lot of people wanted to be. Um, Things have changed over the last 40 or 50 years, but back when I was in the military 35, 40 years ago, a lot of people forego around having a family, put that off because they thought they would be a better father or husband after the military. They forewent college or higher education to go in the military, and then did that. And that's what I was doing. I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
But once you join the military, 3 days into basic training, if you had a told any of us, no matter, and I excelled later on, but if you had a told any of us that we could leave and go back home, we would have went home to a man. Nobody would have stayed. And it's because they had a method of letting us know who was an authority, and sort of taking us from mama's house into being a man that needed to be a protector. And they understood all that, and they had a good format to do that. But later on, I saw that I had at least to start out a 4-year commitment. And you saw guys, and you see that everywhere, and that says, I made a mistake. I'll be done in 4 more years, or I'll be done in 4 more months.
Mm.
And they were marking time out of their lives till they could get back to the normal world. And that's never been the way I looked at things. I looked and saw, if I'm going to be here, there's no way out except for a dishonorable to myself, to my family. Um, and so if I'm going to be here, I'm going to make the best of my time.
Was
And
there
I heard,
anybody from your family involved in military before you?
no, not
No.
well, yes, my grandfather, I say no. My grandfather was in World War II, but
Mhm.
he wasn't involved in combat. He was in Panama as a supply sergeant. So yes, he was, but that was no influence. That was no influence to me being there whatsoever.
Mhm.
Um, My heroes, and you heard that in my talk, my heroes were blue collar men that that were roll up your sleeves and work hard for what you want, people. And I think that was because of the way my dad was. My dad was in multi-level marketing, Amway back then, and of all things, he was a speaker. That's what he was the best at. So here I sit. But he was young, and he was 20 years older than I was, and he was real flashy. That's the way they taught you to be back then. And I didn't think he had enough time for me, sort of subliminally. So I did not want to be my dad. I wanted to be like the men that I worked with at the rough and tumble jobs, the blue collar jobs that I have. So I didn't want to go to college and ended up being like my dad, a businessman and all that, which is short-sighted and immature. But that's really what put me in the
Well,
Army.
that's how you saw it. That was your
Sure,
perspective at that time. Of course. Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
That's exactly the way I saw it. But um, after I got in the military, I started volunteering for everything that I could volunteer for, and that really set me on a path. And I was at the right place at the right time. But I'll maximize my time. I thought if I'm going to be here, I'm not just going to count the days. But I heard these guys coming down the street one day, and I could hear the roar in their voices. They were singing while they were marching, and I looked out the window, and it still brings chills to me to think about these guys. The difference in what I saw, because I'd seen a few formations of men early in my military, but I looked at these guys, and it was captivating. And they were so crisp and so clear and so starched and pressed, and the military bearing is what we call it.
Yeah.
And I asked somebody, I said, "Who are those guys?" And a sergeant that had been there for a while, he said, "Those are Rangers." And I automatically knew that I wanted to be a Ranger, and it wasn't because of anything that my grandfather had done. Wasn't trying to impress my girlfriend or my mom or whatever. I wanted to have what they had that I didn't understand the moment that I saw them. And Vera, I found out why they were so attractive and why they looked like they looked when I investigated them just a little bit more. I found out that they came out of regular units like I was in, but they volunteered. So that's the key phrase, and the key word is they were volunteers. They said, "Hey, we're not going to hang out with these other guys that's just trying to pass time. We want to be specially trained. We're going to maximize our time that we're in the Army." And every one of them, to a man, was a volunteer, and I volunteered for that. And that view of being a volunteer, I think, is in everything I do at 59 years old. I realize that if I'm not volunteering for it, then I'm probably in the wrong place, and I'm probably going down the wrong path, because I want to be involved in things that I not only believe in, but I want to be in things that I'm very passionate about.
Yeah.
So that's sort of why I'm sitting in front of you today. But I'm glad that you asked me about that, because I think that's not only at that age, that's when you're most formative, but that formulated so much about me.
But you know
And
what I'm hearing when you say that, and you didn't say that because you don't have that ego that is flashy. But I also feel from that impulse that you had, you didn't want to be average. You didn't want to be blended with these guys that were there really like just checking out the calendar and just surviving. You had that pull because you wanted to be in elite unit. You want to be counted for something. You want to have some impact. You didn't want to just waste your time there. And I think that's kind of showing early on the character that you grow up with, that you felt compelled to do something more significant than just sitting around and fooling around with guys. And when you saw that example, that role model that was resonating with you, then you felt called to do that. And I think that's fascinating. Would you please go back to, I know you included it in your speech, and that was the part that I really love. That story you said about how they were testing rangers, how they were sifting and sorting through the candidates to become the best of the best. Because it's something that we civilians can't even imagine. And I actually came from a country where military was kind of on a second burner because it was mandatory to go to military for 2 years, and then morale looks based on that, which changed since. But you know, I grew up with military that was kind of like, oh my God, like, well, I have to go there for 2 years. So the opposite of what you felt. And when I came to the United States, I was so impressed with anybody I met who was in military, because it stands apart. You know, that character, when you go with the understanding that you may be put in a situation that you will be risking your life for your country, and you are okay with that, that takes a special type of people. And it doesn't involve just you, but your entire family. And you know, it's really big commitment. And if you could go back to what you were saying in your speech about that one particular test, when they test you in a march, what it means and what they put as obstacles for you to mess with your mind, if to see who is more comfortable to retrieve and just give up.
Well, I want to, because I don't want to forget it on the tail end of the story. I think that it's it's not imperative, that would be the wrong word, but I think it's valuable for people to learn that when they're hungry, they can wait another 6 minutes or 6 hours, maybe even 6 more days
Yep.
until they eat.
Yeah.
I think that when you're sleepy or when you're tired, that it's good to know that you can make it, 7 more minutes, 7 more hours, or maybe 7 more days before you go to sleep. That's where I want to make sure that I convey that.
Yeah.
I had been so I had been so physical. Like I said, my heroes were blue collar. I had blue collar jobs, and I had done a lot of physical things.
Mhm.
I wrestled, and I played tennis, and I played golf, and I played basketball and football and all those things. And I never was really challenged. I'm not saying at all that I was the best at any of those, but
Mhm.
as far as stretching me to the limits, I never had been injured. I never had been hurt at this time that I spoke about in the Army.
Mhm.
So I was in the regular Army, and you had to volunteer to go to Ranger School. And I told that in the story as well. You had to be at a certain level in your aptitude, in your military skills, but especially in your physical fitness.
Mhm.
And so I never had been tested. And uh, the washout rate in Ranger School, the Ranger School itself was what I volunteered for. It was 68 days at that time. And it was different, and one of the hardest classes to pass that there was. And we had to, the first morning, we had to do 68 push-ups in 2 minutes. We had to do like um, 68 sit-ups in 2 minutes, and we had to do a 2 mile run. Well, I think in Ranger School it was a 5 mile run. It's been 30 some years, but anyway, in a quick amount of time. And that doesn't sound like much to the normal man or the normal military, but these push-ups had to be perfect. You could actually do 10 before they would say 3, 4, 5. You had to do them perfect.
Mhm.
So then if we passed that, we had to swim so far across a lake, and it was in like the 50s outside. The lake was frozen, and we had to keep our M16 out of the water and pull with one arm across through there. But we had to do it with our uniform on and with boots on, which was extremely tough. But what they're trying to do logistically, it probably cost $25,000 back then to send a man through 68 days of that school, because we went to different regions of the country simulating combat and doing the same kind of things, but in different regions. So we would be uh, better trained soldiers and more equipped. But they're trying to wash you out, or trying to get you to fail if you're going to fail in that first day or in that first 10 days. So I made it through the first day, and about 5 days into that, we had this road march. And um, like, so we had, and I said 50 pounds in the talk because I don't want to ever offend or get somebody to not pay attention to the rest of what I'm saying because they think I'm sensationalizing one part. Then you lose people. So
Yeah.
I'm quite sure we had quite a bit more than 50 pounds on our back, but uh, I can't say exactly how much, but it was heavy.
Yeah.
And we were formed up, and we knew that we had a packing list, and everybody's stuff, there was 200 of us, was inspected to make sure we had what was supposed to be in the packing list, which would put the exact same amount of weight on all of our backs. And I weighed about 135 pounds back then, and they did not issue equipment in the military due to your size. They issued it out per man. So we lined up on the road, and we were told that we were going to be going an unknown distance, and that the buses that we rode out there on, that one of them would be following, and we could quit and get on the bus at any time that we wanted. So that was automatically strategic in the process, and put there in it to make our task exponentially harder. And we all know that most of us that's gone through physical things, or everybody knows that most things in life that are physical are triggered mentally. When you've got your head set straight or your mind right, then you can push your body a lot further. So we took off down the road at a pretty fast pace. And if we had known that we were going 25 miles, it would have been easier. If we had known we were going 40 miles, at least we'd have known we were going 40 miles.
Yeah.
But we didn't know whether we were going up the road 2 or 3 miles and it would be over with or not. But we had a pretty good idea, because we were in Ranger School, that it was going to be tough. But I took off up the road with diligence and with purpose. But maybe 15, 16 hours into it, um, our mind started playing games on us. And the fact that we had a bus behind us started to be more important. The fact that we had an unknown distance ahead of us started to be more relevant. And it wasn't relevant at the beginning because we were all in great shape. Uh, and I look back on that day as the hardest day, one of the hardest days of my life, physically and mentally. And I draw off of that still. Every week I'll think about that and know that probably everything's going to be okay today, because I'm not having a day like that. But as we got going down the road, people started getting on that bus, and we started noticing that. And medics, we would stop maybe every 2 or 3 hours, and medics would come around and look at our feet and ask us how we were doing. And we would get back up, and it was like getting out of a swimming pool on a cold day. It's all right if you stay in the swimming pool, but you don't want to get out and stop for about 5 minutes. It's hard to get back in. And so that even stopping every so often, every 2 or 3 hours, made it harder, because our feet would start swelling back up. And then we would have to get back on them, and it was worse than not having stopped at all. But many miles later and deep into the night, like I said in the talk, I started hearing sounds that I still hear, that I'd never heard before. And they were the sounds of men being broken, um, both mentally and physically. You would hear men start moaning, and then they were sobbing, and nobody wanted to be heard or seen by another man, but they were doing the best that they could. And we went on through that journey. And like I said in the talk, I don't know how many men finished, and I don't know how many men got on the bus, but there's men walking around today that their feet are totally flat because of that one event. So it was a sure enough hard process and a hard day. And that's what I was hearing. I didn't know what I was hearing, but men's feet were going flat as they were, the natural arch in their feet. So that's not to elaborate on, but I made it through that day, and I realized that the first reason was I didn't get injured. But what I learned more than that is I was there because of a simple phrase. I wanted to be there. I volunteered for that. I wanted to be there. You've got to do things in life because you want to be involved in them, because you want to be there. If you start out because of somebody, of trying to impress somebody else, they're not there with you in those times. And so it's easy to start out on superficial journeys in life. But when they get tough, so many times, and a process that I like to tell, a process that goes back to the Word of God that I draw off of, says a builder never builds without counting the cost. Well, it doesn't matter where you go in the world or who you're talking to. Anybody could understand that phrase. So that makes sense that before you get into any endeavor, you think about what you know about it, what it may cost to come out the other side with the vision that you have. But I didn't have any trouble in that area that day because I wanted it for myself, and I didn't get injured. But it made an impression on me for the rest of my life, and it was at a time in my life, or at an age in my life, where it formulated the man that I am today. It showed me what I just told you, but it also showed me that you have to learn how to be comfortable in discomfort in life.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things that come along in life that make you uncomfortable, and you can't be on a journey to find comfort. You have to learn how to be comfortable in discomfort. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. And I think that's what people struggle with the most. And our friend that I got introduced to you because of her, Berta Medina, that is fantastic human being. And I have her on a podcast as well, one of the first episodes of this podcast. And she's incredible human being. She speaks, and almost every valuable coach I met speaks about the importance of why. You had your why. You knew why you were there. Yes. Exactly what you said. If you go on artificial journey because you're doing it for something or for somebody, and you just want to feel how it feels like, you will never find that strength in you to not quit. Because when it gets uncomfortable, and this was damn uncomfortable, it's so easy to quit because it's not meaningful to you that much. But because it's impressive to me, because I don't know if I have strength like that when I was a young woman, to find so much conviction in me to follow through on something that was so important to me. I don't think I did. So it was really, that you pictured in that speech, that situation so well, that I felt I was there and I could feel the pain, and I could imagine how easy it would be to just give up and go on that bus. and it's the moment when it's shaping character, because it's the man you want to be, not who you are right now dealing with all this discomfort, but who you want to be, who you want to respect in you. And I think that's the big defining moment for for anybody in their life, and not many people went through ordeal like this, but it's really impressive. And that was I just found important to talk about this, because I think it made your journey forward so much more important, because you can always look back at this and be proud of that moment. You didn't give up. So many people easily give up. And so how did it then, like, you were in Rangers, you made it, and anything that you remember that was particularly really enriching your life as well?
Well, you mentioned, to me before that it wasn't in my bio. A lot of times I don't say that, and um, to know me or what I'm about at 59 years old, sitting here today, um, that's not as big of it's not a big thing to me. It was a stepping stone. It's a part of my foundation. It's one of it's part of the cornerstone that makes me who I am. But uh, I told that story to talk about how important vision is for an individual, especially. And I look at, my purpose in life is to help men, and my vision, my ministry in life is to as I grow as a man, and as I am tempered as a man, and apply the principles that I believe in my life. I just want to turn around and grab another man,
Yeah.
and say, "Hey, let's go. I'll help. Where are you at? Um, are you sure that you want to do that?" I don't tell people what they should be doing. I just want them to think about what they're doing and why they're doing it. But
But
I thought about that when you were.
how that come around? How that idea come around? That did you always naturally did that in your life?
No, not at all. But I think the reason why I don't talk about my military is, over the years, people have given me accolades for things like that. But my heroes are husbands and fathers, because I think that, and I mean that, good husbands and good fathers, that I think that's the hardest job
Yeah.
on earth for a man, is to be a good father and a good husband. And those are the places where I would like to grow them, where I can look back and see um, my shortcomings. Those are the places that I can look back and say that's where I would have liked to have done better. And sometimes I'm not ashamed of that, or I don't wear it like bad scars, but I do look back. The things that we talked about with Ranger School, and um, the road march and all that, I, I did that because I had personal vision. Life's not about you need to go on those personal journeys. But the end game does not need to be about you. It needs to be that you have a better environment for the people that you care about, for the people that you're responsible for the people that you're rubbing off on, and for the people that you're leading. Uh, so anyway, that was a part of the process, and that's why I don't speak about it that much, because I don't I want to continue growing, and I would rather talk about where I'm going today. And one thing I did want to say about the military, and it's just a short thing, there's a reason why people in the military are 18 to 22 years old. But you will blindly follow and get passionate about those things. And it's after life's happened, in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, then you start seeing politics, and you start seeing the reasons why the military's in different places. And my sons were in the military after me. They looked up to that. And somebody asked me one time, said, are you not concerned with your boys in the military? And I said, well, I think our military is the best trained and the best supported military in the world, but I don't have a lot of faith in the politics that places my son in harm's way. So that's
Yeah.
that's it. My statements about the military today would be very short. But when I talk about what I'm impressed with and what I want to grow into, my heroes are good fathers and good husbands.
Yeah, but which is interesting you say that, because when you touched on your father, he was not particularly a role model for you. Not that you
Well,
didn't love him or, admire him, but it was you didn't want to be like him. That's good stepping stone, I guess.
well, it's funny how we can make judgments off of little or no information. So that was my little world, and so we don't see the big picture
Yeah.
when we're young. We see our little part. There's never, I hope, I'll say this statement in hopes. I hope that we're the most selfish when we're young. It's,
Yeah.
when we're a baby, we're dependent. And then as we grow older, we're less dependent through adolescence and puberty and all that, but we're still more dependent than we ought to be when we're in our 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. So later on, I went, and I'll say this, it came through my faith of realizing that life was not about me, and uh, seeing a broader view of human existence and purpose and passions, and thinking deeper. I absolutely love psychology, but I will say this before I elaborate on that. Sometimes we can have people in our life that that we don't. I'll use my dad as an example. All my adult life up to a certain point, I didn't want to be him so much or like him so much that I ended up being just like him. That make That'll make sense. Everybody can laugh at that because there's there's such a subliminal force that they're the most important person in your life. You
Yeah.
can spend so much time not wanting to be like them. In other words, thinking about them all the time to where you end up being just like them. And I'm so glad that that happened because as my dad got older, we started spending more time together, and I started finding out what was going on back in those days that I thought I was being pushed to the side
Hmm.
and that I wasn't being coddled or
Yeah.
focused on enough. And it was just miscommunication, misperception. We talked all that out and we ended up finishing well. He's passed away now,
Mhm.
but I will say that, it was misconstrued, and so much of that in life changed whenever I realized that I wasn't the center of the universe.
That's
And
a big important part.
sure,
Yes.
and
Yes.
I don't, and I
Perspective.
won't say that I've ever gone around through life that bad, but I will say that that can happen, and that all of that needs to go. When life's all about you, you're miserable. You're thinking about, am I hungry? Is the temperature in the car in the house exactly right? Am I tired? Did I get enough sleep? All that stuff will make
Yeah.
you miserable when it's about you. But when you have a perspective of how can I bring safety and security to the places where I go? How can I have, how can I formulate the vision for where I'm going, for where this family's going, uh, for where my ministry's going, where this business is going, and start working on that plan, and realizing that my successes in life, I've achieved a lot of them so I could replicate, so I could grab another man and help him, at least get up to where that I am. And you start thinking about that, Vera, and then you realize, hey, I can only lead people as far as I've been. So that really makes me want to achieve higher standards and gain more vision and go to different levels. And it's not so I'll be smart, so I'll gain more wisdom and knowledge. Sure, I want that, or more wealth, but I want to be able to pull other men up where I am and for them to get on a higher level than what they ever believed they could be. But it's about who's coming along with me. It's about who's coming along behind me.
I hear the strong message of service, even though you never said that, because I think that's what drives you. That's why you need to grow as well, because like Tony Robbins famously say, you either
Mm,
grow or die. And many
yes.
people just settle for what is, and they never feel compelled to change anything about their life or become better version of themselves. And they are miserable, and they make life of people around them miserable as well. You have this drive in you to become a better version of yourself and challenge yourself, even, in your age and beyond. It's because you want to be of service. It's not because of your ego. It's not because of you, your needs. It's because you feel, like you just perfectly said, that you can only bring them as far as you went, and you want to continue that journey, because it is important for you as well, but for people that you are bringing with you. It's really admirable. And that was one of the biggest things that impressed me when we met first time in Miami, uh because in my eyes you were a big personality because of what you were talking about, and you had that presence. Yet one of the most impressive people that I ever met had that similarity with you, that they are impressive, their experience is absolutely unbelievable, impressive, yet they are super humble to who they are. And that combination is rare to find, because when people get to bragging and when people feel that, look at me, you can sense it from 100 miles, and it pushes people away. You don't have a bragging bone in your body. You are proud and convinced, and rightly so. But I never once, and we spent time on the phone and in person, never once I felt any arrogance in you. And I think that's what make man man, in my humble opinion.
Well, thank you for saying that. That's not a perspective of myself that I see or that I feel. Um, it's hard to it's hard to be. We're all leaders. We're leading people. We're leading people either right or wrong.
Yeah.
But it's hard to have definitive passions and to be bold and to go down the path that we need to go, um, and at the same time um, be realize that we can be that strong. But I think what makes us strong is knowing our weaknesses or getting weak. A statement I like to say all the time, and this fits more toward ministry, is it, and I'll share this, and I never apologize for my beliefs, but it amazes me that our Creator God chose to do almost everything that He was ever going to do in history through human beings, and um, we can be so strong and accomplish so many things, but we can absolutely be so weak. And I think that the strength comes from the realization of the weakness, if that makes any sense at all, without elaborating enough. So I try to get up every morning and realize that I'm a ministry, and I get porous and I open up and I look at my shortcomings. And what that is just being real.
Yeah.
It's all right. Realizing that it's okay to be where you are, but that's not where you need to remain. That's not where you need to remain. You need to go beyond where you are, but it's also realizing that it's all right to be there. And so I stay in that posture every day in the morning, is my time. And then I get up. I start out as a ministry and I get up as a minister. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
I
Yeah.
sit right there till I receive, till I say, here's where we are. Here's where the vision is, where we need to go. Here's the men and the women and children that are dependent on me. And I get humble with humility. I've never received a day in my life from you or from God or from anyone else until I got in the correct posture. So I try to get in that posture every day, because if we're made in the image of God, and I believe that we are, then you're going to learn something from a 6-year-old girl
Yeah.
and a 97-year-old man, because they're made the same way. And when you judge someone or look at them the wrong way, all you're saying is, I don't want to learn from that person.
Yeah.
And when you have that perspective in life, it makes life go from black and white to color. It makes everybody that you meet, and I don't have time to stop and speak to everyone. I'm not supposed to. But I do look in people's eyes and ask them how they're doing, realizing that I'm willing to stand there for 15 seconds or 15 minutes if I need to let them know that they're seen or heard. People want to
Yeah.
know that they're seen or heard. That's what all the social media, that's why people follow podcasts. That's why they read self-help books. That's why they go to church. People are struggling with life and real life issues. And that was the name of the talk, what you heard me say in the talk, that in a world of unknowns, where do we start? We start with what we know. There's a lot of things that I don't know yet, and there's a lot of things that are going to happen in the day that are unexpected. But the way that I choose to handle those things and try to help other people, I have foundational things in my life, and that's how I handle things. Now, does that build as the day goes on, that through the experiences, does that build as life goes on? Sure. But at least I have a well of fuel that I'm running off of. I call it
Yeah.
fuel.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that I'm running off the right fuel. So that's where the humility comes from, I hope. I want to realize that I'm a work in progress, but I also realize that I can't wait till I get to a certain place. It's not about a destination or getting to a certain place before you grab another person and say, "Hey, that are you sure that you want to say that? Are you sure that you want to do that? Come on, let me help, and you help me as I help you." So that comes, I hope, out of a place of service. But how I got there is, I realized, and I think a lot of people do, if you want to know what your purpose is, the way I've been taught, you find out what your passion is. Your passion leads to your purpose, and it's a worldview that I have. Is I see it, and I use this analogy a lot. Um, when you go into a place that you're involved in, whether it's a business or a church, this happened to me in a moment. 20 years ago, I saw that the waste paper basket was overflowing, and I saw that waste paper basket, and I heard just as plain as day inside, you see things not so you can go find someone else to take care of it. You see things so you can take care of it yourself. And that is a lot of the way that I go about my business. And I see so many, uh, I see the biggest deficiency in our culture, Vera, is men not being present, not being where their boots
Oh,
are.
for sure.
I see, it's not that I don't see women and children, but when I see women and children, I see them as collateral damage from a man not knowing how to be a man.
Mm.
And I choose to see what I see not as being evil, but as being ignorant. Because if I choose to look at men as evil, then I've judged them. I'll push them away. I won't have anything to do with them. It'll be short-sighted, and I'll just walk on. But when I look at them as thinking to myself, hey, they're just maybe just be ignorant. And I don't mean ignorant in a bad way. I'm not judgmental either. I'm just saying, hey, they don't have vision, or they haven't seen, or they didn't have anybody lead them. But I mean it to say this: if I see it that way, I'll walk toward them. I'll and I will speak to them and find out what's going on inside, what's going on and I will embrace them. And I'll say, hey, what are you dealing with? What are why did you say what you said?
Yeah.
Why are you doing what you're doing? If I've had the opportunity to speak to them, or they want to be spoken to, and I can embrace them, and I can say, hey, I'll invest in you, or I will spend time with you. I'm still in the process of figuring things out, but we'll figure it out together. We can go places better together than we can separate. But I choose to look at the deficiency in the culture as men, but I choose to see it as ignorance instead of evil. And I choose to help rather than judge, because nothing's ever going to change until if a man has not had another man in their life, either growing up or don't have them. The only way that I know to make things better is by being that man or volunteering to do that. And I have those men in my life, and I know at this point in my life what works for me. And I sort of feel like that we have a lot of similarities, all of us. If it's working for me, it's probably going to work for somebody else. And we have a tendency in our minds to get boxed in life.
Yeah.
Everything becomes small and we get overwhelmed. The world sort of gets small. And as soon as I get outside of my head and go talk to the next door neighbor, the man across the street, I find out that the same thing's going on over there that's going on at my house, and the world gets bigger.
Yeah.
And then I go talk to somebody else on the phone or interact with somebody at work or in daily travels, and find out the same thing's going on. Then the world gets even bigger. And what's going on right there is, when it gets bigger, it gets more manageable. You say, well, everyone's going through the same things, and I will go beyond that. When things get manageable, you've got hope. That's people say things get manageable, but I say we have hope, because that's what people are looking for. People are looking for hope. And in football, um, I use this analogy all the time. That on a football team, they'll say, "Well, this guy is a game manager. He does well. He doesn't wow you with the things that he does, but he's not going to hurt you either. He just sort of gets you through the game without." Well, we're not supposed to be that way in life. We're not just supposed to manage um, our lives. We're supposed to rule over our lives, and things are we're supposed to put things in our rear view mirror. We're supposed to put our handicaps and make them uh, our strengths, and learn from them and go beyond just being a manager. And there's so many people that's just trying to manage life. Anyway, I don't want to
Yeah.
overstep my
No,
bounds in that area,
it's
but
understandable. And I see connections from when you were just talking. Even though you never mentioned those words, I can see connections back to that story, because you were talking about taking the focus of yourself, because your world becomes so much bigger when you are invested in other people's stories and you are there for service. And also that hope, that was the most cruel part of that exercise, because you did not know, you have absolute uncertainty if that march is gonna last few hours or few days. You did not see any light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that's the worst situation to put the man in. And man, I mean men or women, when you don't have the hope, you don't see the deadline, you don't see where you're going with this. Let's say somebody's listening to this conversation of ours and thinking about, I would love to be in this man's world. This is somebody that's completely resonate with me. What would be the best way to approach you?
well, like I said, it's my passion to help another man. But and you read it in my bio. I always think about this. I want to help uh, people with vision. I want to help men with vision, because we won't move without vision.
Yeah.
But I don't want it to be sexy opinions or statements, the popular opinions of the day. I want to find out uh, what they're hearing, where they've been, what's formulated the man that's generically sitting there in front of me, what they're dealing with, where they've been, and where they are, and where they think that they want to go, and ask them, like I said, what their passions are, uh, that leads to their purpose. But I want to try to get to draw out, I'll say it this way, I want to try to draw out the gold in people. I want to um, take the strengths that I see and get them to see what I see and what's already inside of them and what's already there. So I will use I'll use another analogy. I was riding with my stepdaughter. Never forget this. Maybe 15 years ago, and I said, "Sweetheart, what do you think that you want to do when you get older?" And she said, "Well, I think I want to be a teacher." And I told her, I said, "Well, you would be. I can see that. I can see where you would be a good teacher." And I had the presence of mind to think about it. There's a Bible scripture that says that God will give you the desires of your heart. Well, in shallowness all my life, I'd sort of thought about that. And what I've come to realize over time, especially from that moment on, that we just don't, we're just not bouncing off the walls, right? And like I said, that's my opinion and my belief that we're just not bouncing off the wall. When the phone rings, it's who's supposed to be on the other end of the phone.
Yeah.
You're married to who you're supposed to be married to. You're working where you're supposed to be working. Uh, when you walk in the post office, whoever's walking out the door is the person that you're supposed. I just don't believe in happenstance. I don't believe in luck or chance. But I was short-sighted on that statement. I'll elaborate on that. That we just don't get into things uh, and then ask God or the creator to come alongside of that and help us in it. And like I said, those are my opinions. He says he'll give us the desires of our heart because he's the origin of those desires.
Yeah.
That changes everything. When you look at it as I don't have to figure all this out, I just need to slow down long enough to figure out the romance that's been going on inside of me all my life and see if I've been honoring that. But so many times we need to slow down long enough to honor what we're talented at, uh, our desires, and connect the dots and see what's already inside of us. And sometimes we just need someone to help us connect those dots to,
Yeah.
in accountability, we need people that can see our blind spots. But I believe that we're created to not be able to figure out everything inside of our heads. We have to, I believe, have a vertical. I choose to have the vertical connection, but I also need the horizontal connections that I have in life because we're sort of made that way. I can call you tomorrow with a problem I'm having, and you can ask me what's going on, and I can probably tell you all those things, and you would say, "Well, Kevin, I agree with everything that you just said and how you handle it. That's probably correct." But I couldn't figure that out. I needed to bounce it off of you. And I think, and that's what I try to help men do. But I'm available to do that. I'm going to spend the rest of my life. I've been doing this for 20 years. It's what I do, at 12 o'clock at night or 12 o'clock during the day. But I've decided to get, to be in the speaking realm and in the coaching realm. And it's what I'll never retire from. It's what I want to do. And I want to help men because I want to see the women and children and the people that they're responsible for. I want to see their workplaces. I want to see their subdivisions. I want to see everything change. These environments change because a man is on the scene, not a male in title, but a real man that's operating at his full potential because he he sees what's already been put inside of him. He sees that the experiences and things that he's having are not by luck or chance. But I think we need three groups of men in our life, and that's why I want to mentor men. I think we need the mentors, the men that that we seek out in different areas of our life that can tell us, hey, you're fine where you are. You're walking the right way. I've been there. Just keep on walking in the dark and walk on out, and everything's going to be okay. Uh, that sort of help us with the blueprints for where we feel like we need to go. Then I think we need the peer. We need the men that are sort of on the same level in our businesses, in our parenting, our husbands, the men uh, that we just totally let our shoulders down and get brutally honest with on our shortcomings, the things that we're ashamed of, the things that are hamstringing us, the things that we want to go out that where we just live this messy life sort of together with our peers. And then I think as we grow, that we're correct in reaching around and grabbing another man that may not have anybody to help him and reach down and pull him up to where we are. So those are the three categories of men that I try to keep in my life. So I want to be I want to be at whatever level another man is. I can mentor him. I can be a peer to him and just get real. And that's the most important man. But I also want to say that to say this, those men don't have to be the same men all your life. I moved back to Tennessee from Texas, and I had the peers and the mentors and the men I was pulling up there. I moved to Tennessee, and those categories of men, it's the same category with different faces here in Tennessee. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Some of them down in Texas I'm still connected with because of technology. I can still glean from them and have that fresh infusion. But those men will come in and out of your life, but they still serve the same purpose. But I know that I wouldn't be where I'm at today. I want to be spiritually, mentally, and physically healthy. And I know I wouldn't be there without the coaching and the men that I've had in my life. And I just want to turn around and replicate. You never, never need to be scared of pulling someone up where you are. I want people to come up where I am if they feel like that they need help, but I want them to go beyond, and I want to watch them prosper as they go along. But I want to replicate and see men go beyond. I don't understand this, and there's so many people in business and ministry and all these different places. They're afraid to help other people because they're afraid the spotlight's going to be off of them, and they've totally got it wrong. And I just don't believe in that. I want people to go beyond where I've ever thought about going. And like I said, I'm laser focused on men.
It also speaks of your heart because you understand that sometimes sometimes most of the time there's nothing wrong with the man. They never have a chance to sit down and really listen to their thoughts. They just go, trying to provide, or they get lost somewhere in the way. And all that coaching is, which absolutely fascinates me, because Berta famously says, nobody in the world needs coaching, nobody. But people that want to excel they want to be above average. If you want to be better father, if you want to be better husband, and until you meet someone who can see you for who you really are and give you that strength to pull it out of you and support you on that way, on that growth, it doesn't impact only that person in front of you. It impacts their entire life. Because once the man becomes better man and have somebody that he respects, and most people go through life just looking, okay, reacting, anything can trigger them out because they are like aimless. They don't know even where they are going. And I think with you have a clear vision of what you need to do. And then you have no doubts what needs to be done for that. Because once you have clear vision where you're going, your way and the right people appear in your life, and everything takes a shape on its own. And that's what you can provide to men that are kind of alone on the journey, because sometimes you cannot talk deep with your partner. Sometimes she's tired, she has children to take care of, everybody has their own responsibility. This is so important for someone who wants to really change the way the life is right now, but they don't know how. All you need to find somebody like Kevin and just sit down and talk it through. And you may realize that you had the answer all along, but you just didn't have
Yes,
time to look at it.
that's it. Yes, it couldn't have been better said. I believe that the longer that I live, that life is about relationships. And men learn how to be men around men.
Yeah.
And women learn how to be women around women. And men and women are supposed to be together, but there's a lot of places that a woman can't meet a man. If I'm a man, if I'm struggling with something or another man is struggling with something, if we deal with it together, we grow, and uh, it makes, like I said, things manageable. And then when we're in the relationship with the female, she doesn't have to deal with it because we have dealt with that with another man before we ever get home, or before we ever get back in the relationship with a woman. And then we're not consumers in that relationship that day. We are making deposits instead of withdrawals. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
And then the other thing that I wanted to say, I thought about it so much, and I still learn every day in shorter ways to say it. Relationships are reciprocal. They're always reciprocal. When I'm helping another man or another man's helping me, I get excited every day, even though I'm coaching or talking to another man that's supposedly wanting what I have to offer. I learned so much. That's what makes me so excited. I'm learning as much or more
Mm-hmm.
from him than he's learning from me. And that's because my perspective is set right.
Yeah.
And when there's something that's not natural about that's right. When I sit down and I'm not waiting on someone to finish talking so I can talk, but I'm actually listening to them
Right.
and learning from them, then I'm able to hear in real time what might help this man, because it's helping me. But when you're just trying to say the next self-help sexy statement and trying to tell people what to think,
Yeah.
it's never going to work. You need to give people practical vision that they're able to walk out, and they're able to set goals that are attainable. And you're just, like I said, sort of living the messy life. Everybody's life's messy, but you're living it together, which makes it a lot more manageable and gives people hope. And that's what I want to bring.
That's funny you mentioned this listening, because I believe it's the most important thing in relationship, to be able to listen to the other without the need to shaping already in your head how you're going to respond. So you actually not listening, because you can only focus on one thing at a time. So that's another bonus, because you show them how to be attentive to their partner. You show them how to pay attention to what their children are saying or not saying.
Yes.
You show them how to be more present in their lives themselves, because they saw it from you, because they experienced it with you. And that's another unspoken bonus of, I think that's in center of today's relationships. Nobody pays attention to anybody. People get to a certain point, and for everybody it happens in different times, that they feel, is this what it is? Is this all there is? Am I gonna just go to work, come back, like yelling at kids, running to make money so we can pay bills? Is this all there is to life? And eventually, and it may happen to anybody in different points of their life, you feel almost painful void in life because you feel like there's something more, there's something better that you are meant to do. And I think that's one little skill to just listen to the other and actually try to understand their perspective from their position. It's a huge talent that not everybody has today. And that's how people feel disrespected. That's how women feel
Yes.
disrespected from my perspective, when the men sometimes have no avenue to voice his opinions as well, or voice what's going on with him, or he wants to be shown, or he wants to be perceived as manly, so he feels if I become vulnerable with my feelings, I'm gonna lose power as a man or something. There's a million things stories going in our heads, and I think this is super important what you do, to be able to sit down with somebody and kind of show them the mirror, you know, it's okay, this is, you know, we need to talk it through, and they'll show you what they want that maybe they won't admit to themselves even. And when you can be somebody who can build them up and help them to achieve it, that's the whole new level of fulfillment in life. And I think that's what coaching, that's what makes it so fulfilling career. And most of us don't have the confidence to see the best in us, and we see it in other people, but we don't see it about us, and we need somebody else to point it out and bring it out of the shell, I think.
I think that's profound. I see the same thing. I believe that, and I heard it said, I wish I could take this quote, but I heard a man say um, a few years ago that when a situation is dumped in my lap, and he was a coach, uh, he said, when a situation is dumped in my lap, I need someone to come along and tell me what I've been coaching, because we
Yeah.
can't figure,
Oh,
that's what,
absolutely.
that we cannot figure it out when it's us. And all this hope, it's easy for me to tell you to be hopeful, and it's not pie in the sky or just encouragement or trying to tell you all those things. For me it's real, because I believe that things are going to get better with vision and with a plan,
Yeah.
and with you just seeing yourself as capable and hopeful. But I need someone to come alongside of me and do that. And I think that that is part of the authenticity.
Yeah.
It's okay. Everybody needs to know that it's okay to be where they are, but it's not okay to stay there.
Stay there.
And
Yeah.
that's not a sexy statement either. That's foundational, and it's a real truth. But we need to have someone that we're accountable to. We need to have people that we're that are holding us to the standard. We need to have higher standards.
Yeah.
We need to look back. We don't need to be in the same place a year from now, and we need to realize that we're going somewhere and have practical vision for that. But like I said, I believe that men learn how to be men around men, and women learn how to be women around women, so that we can come back together and be better. And that's not something that you'll read in Cosmopolitan. Well, of course, this day and age, it's all online, but
Oh
I
boy.
always say that's not something you read in Cosmopolitan magazine or GQ. And um, it's just what brings value to our life and what brings substance, and to let our shoulders down and take care of that anxious core that can go on. Sometimes men feel overwhelmed because we know that we're responsible, and that there may be,
Expectations. Yeah.
yes, there may be four people in our home that's expecting us to make the right choices, and to uh, we need to realize we have that authority that we have. But with authority, all men want authority, but with authority comes responsibility. And with the responsibility, that's where a lot of men struggle with that. It can get overwhelming. Um, anyway, I don't want to go down a rabbit trail, but that's where we need to
Yeah.
help each other and not be passive. There's never been more depression you know, realized by men, and there's never been more depression because there's never been more unproductivity.
Yeah.
So that would be another podcast, and what I love to help men with, and I want men to help me with that. We need to be productive. It's in our DNA to be productive, and once we get productive in some areas of our life, it just leads to everything else being more productive,
Yeah.
and it leads to health. But you said it a minute ago, and you heard me say it when you met me with my talk. Life is much better lived when it's not based on what's going on around us, but it's based on what's going on inside of us.
That's right.
And that's my purpose.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. I can listen to you for hours. I have one question that could sound funny in your case, because I'm thinking about what you went through, what you experienced in your life, and where you stand today. Is there anything you are afraid of?
I'm afraid this will sound like one of those sexy statements, but I do mean this with all my heart. I'm afraid of not reaching my potential. I'm afraid, like I said, my worldview is uh, from a spiritual point. I believe that we're spiritual, mental, and physical, and there's a alignment to that. And so the spiritual is what's supposed to lead the mental and the physical, the way I look at it and the way I live my life. So I'm not the one that knows where I'm going per se. I believe that I'm being led to where I need to be, not only 20 years from now, but 20 minutes from now. And so I want to be tuned in to what I'm hearing. I'm afraid of not reaching my full potential and afraid of not doing my part. It's doing everything that I know to do today, um, to be a better man and to accomplish the vision practically, that I have, and to walk it out and expect that, like I said, there's no such thing or luck or chance that I'm a leader and that I'm helping other people and that I'm making my life better, but I'm being led. And and I want to make sure that I reach my full potential, reach my God-given potential for this time on earth, but it's all about everybody else and who that I can bring along with me. And
Yeah.
and there's so many things that I can't figure out without the other men in my life. And I realize that there's other men that need men like me to come along beside them, not because we're smart, but because we're available. I just want to make myself available the rest of my life. And I don't want to be passionless with this passion that I have on the inside. I want it not to just be on the inside. I want it to be manifest to other men, and I want to help other men, and I want to watch. I want to have men that mature and grow up, and watch what's done with the rest of their life, and watch. I want to watch their fields prosper and their families prosper, and them bring safety and security into the world. But that was what I would say that I'm scared of. I'm afraid of not doing what I'm called to do, but I want to make sure that I reach full potential. And um, I don't feel like I would be hearing the things and seeing the things that I do on the inside if it wasn't attainable. I know it's attainable because I believe that we're called to do things, and we've heard this all of our life, or I have, that we're not only called, we're equipped.
Yeah. And
We just haven't seen it yet until we walk it out.
it's interesting. It reminded me of a book I read a long time ago, and I don't remember the author, but I remember she was a hospice nurse, and she started interviewing people at the end of their lives. And it didn't matter where they come from, how wealthy they were, or what their history was. It didn't matter at all. The only thing that they were regretting at the end of the life is the things that they didn't try. Things that they were too afraid, too unsure, to not even try. And I think that's overwhelming theme of your goal, that you need to fulfill your potential. You need
Yes.
to say at the end of the life, did I live? Did I love? Did I make a difference? That's what Brendon Bouchard teaches, and that's what first attracted me to my first mentor in personal growth. When I started questioning myself, do I do enough to be able to say that at the end of my life? Did I do everything enough? And it's something, I think it's also based in faith. When I just recently, I was visiting friends in North Carolina, and we went to Leonardo da Vinci exhibit. And I have to admit, I knew him, of course, his beautiful paintings and everything. I didn't know 80% of his life, that he was inventor. He was doing amazing things at his time. He did so much more than just Sixteen Chapel, and for some reason, when he was dying, he was feeling that he didn't fulfill his potential. He probably filled multiple lives in his lifetime, but he felt that, I want to apologize to God that I didn't fulfill all the talents that he bestowed in me. And it was mind-boggling, because he did so much more than I ever knew. That when I was looking at all that exhibit full of quotes from him and inventions that were revolutionary for his time, and yet he felt that he didn't do enough. It's incredible. And I don't want to forget to mention at the end of this beautiful talk, you are working on your first book. That book is going to be called Live What You Believe. What a better title than something like that for the book of Kevin Wilson. You are example.
Well, thank you. Like I said, I don't want to tell people what to think. I want them to think for themselves and investigate what they've already been hearing,
Yeah.
and to foster that quietness and still all of their life. You just said it about Leonardo da Vinci. There was something that we think is sad in him not feeling like that he fulfilled all that, but there's something profound and encouraging in that as well. He died. If I think I want to finish well, and I want to die living, living my full potential. And I think that if I'm piggybacking off of what I what I see other men doing, and I'm not investigating uh, what's going on inside of me, what somebody else is doing will help me to a certain extent. And that's part of the plan of what I'm hearing on the inside. I need to see that things are manageable, but I want to go to what uh, my personal purpose and my personal potential is, because it's different than everyone else.
For sure.
And I'm not going to do anything but chase that all of my life. I want to finish well, but I also want to realize that when I'm gone, uh, the environments where I had been were better because I had been there.
I was going to ask you for something profound at the end, and I think you just did that. Because that would be something that, we strive for, being remembered by something. And you just said it. That's what matters the most to you. And coaching is fantastic way to discover your own potential, because it's not generic advice that you can find anywhere. This goes deep, and it goes reflecting your own values and your own experiences and your own maybe unfulfilled dreams or ambitions that got pushed deep down because you didn't have time, or you didn't have enough confidence in it. And that's what coaching can entirely change, fundamentally change life of person. And I think you are the perfect person in that position to help others to fulfill their potential as you are fulfilling your own. This was such a joy to listen to you, Kevin, and I knew that because we spent hours on the phone, and it's profound for me too, because once I found my own purpose in life, I started meeting people that I was meant to meet and on my own journey. And so we enrich each other. And I'm so proud that I got to share your story here today. And I hope that people will resonate with it just like I did, and they will get inspired, or maybe even inspired so far that they would reach out and spend some time with you and investigate how far they can go in their life. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Well, I love that word investigate, and I know that I'm richer for the time that I spent with you, and I feel like I'm the one that's grown and blessed, and I love the invitation, and from what I knew of you, I knew that we were going to have a good time, and I hope that we gave someone hope today, and I know that we did,
Yeah.
and that life became a little bit more manageable, and that people will continue to learn how to slow down to go faster.
Because just like you says, you can go without food for 6 minutes or 60 hours or 6 days. You never know your limits until you are challenged to test them. And that was some test. See, I still remember that story because you said it so well. And that's what first attracted me to you, because that builds character, and not everybody survived that drill. And was incredible. So that makes you who you are today. And I'm so blessed and happy to have met you. And thank you so much for this time spent.
Pleasure's been mine. Let's do it again.
Let's do it again.